Well, hello there. Last week, Chestnut sent me their new Chessnut Move, a robotic chessboard. Now, what is a robotic chessboard? Well, in Chestnut's case, every single one of their pieces is a little micro robot with wheels that can scurry around the board. And the idea is that you play a move and your opponent, when they make a move, the pieces move by themselves. And your opponent could be the computer, or it could be a real-life human on the other side of the internet through chess.com or Chess. Now, if you're like me and you really wanted a robotic chessboard, and when you see something like this, and that makes you grin in a silly way, and if you can afford it and you like Chestnut's goods, you're familiar with the other electronic chessboards, and you're happy to cope with just a little bit of jank, then
shut up and take my money.
For everybody else, this is actually a very good electronic chessboard, but you should probably know about the features, the pros and cons before making a decision. I'm a Virtualis the Chess Noob. Let's go take a bit of a deep dive. First thing about the Chessnut Move is that it is a big board, a tournament-sized board, 55 meter squares with tournament-sized pieces. The parcel, in fact, weighed over 10 kilograms according to the label. Now, during the delivery, my box must have been dropped at some point. You can see the damage to the box, and there was actually a bit of damage to my board as well. This is the bottom of the box, fairly simple, clean design, and it basically just says what's inside the box. So number one, we've got the Chessnut Move chessboard itself. We'll see that shortly. We've got the 34 chess pieces with the self-moving bases. 34 because it's 16 pieces each side, and there's an extra queen. The charging pad, that's how you charge the pieces. We'll see that shortly as well. Comes with two charging cables. They probably didn't need to include it. Doesn't add a whole lot, and a user manual. Now, there's actually a few additional goodies inside the box. Let's go take a look. Chestnut designed the robot bases of their pieces to be modular, and they can be easily replaced. And in fact, they provide 4 spare units, which is actually really cool. Not only do they provide the spare units, they provide the tools, pretty much just a little screwdriver and the screws, and there's also instructions on how to replace and then program the piece so that it knows that it's a knight or a pawn or whatever in the user manual. Very good. With the spare units being available, we can take a really close look at how the little robot works. So on the base, there's 2 little rubber wheels driven by individual motors, I would think, allowing the piece to turn on the spot, and of course to zip around the board. You can see the 2 recessed metal prongs, which is what allows the piece to charge. And then as you look on the inside guts of the robot, you can see it's taken up by that center cylinder, which looks like it's a lithium-ion battery, 200 milliamp hours. And here we have the charging plate. You can see the recessed docks where the individual pieces will port into the plate. You can see where the wheels go. There's a little circular nub to align the pieces, and also the socket where the 2 prongs plug into. Each of the little white triangles are a status light for the piece. Red means that it's charging, green means it's fully charged. Also a label attached, just noting that you need to plug the pieces in before you use it the first time. That's a good attention. I can imagine otherwise people wondering why the pieces aren't working. It's probably good practice to charge them the very first time you unopen the box anyway. And here we've got the pieces sitting on the Chessnut Move board. This is a very low angle photo, so you can actually see how the pieces lie. You can see the wheels on the board, as well as that little plastic nub to keep the piece upright. Now here we've also got the very front face of the Chessnut Move board. From left to right, we've got the holes for the speaker, we've got the on button, the Bluetooth button, then there are 4 status lights, the mode button, the button with a hand on the piece. When you press it, the pieces scurry back into their opening position. It resets the board. A really cool, really fun to press that, bit of a party trick. And most on the right is a USB-C port, and this board accepts power delivery charging, which is wonderful. And here we have the white pieces. They're tournament sized, and you can tell these are made from wood. The plastic pieces look exactly the same, but with a plastic finish, white and black. Staunton design, but with a modern twist, as we can see, particularly with the bishops and the rooks. Let's now go have a look at the black pieces. The white wooden pieces are made from boxwood and the black from ebonized boxwood. Semi-gloss finish, as you can see from the reflections and the highlights from the colored lights. They are hand carved, and you can tell by some minor imperfections around the knights and also the crenelles of the rooks. Very, very lovely. Here we've got a comparison with the Chessnut Pro premium pieces. You can see they're roughly the same height, but there are some design differences, so a more modern interpretation of the Staunton. And we of course have the height from the robot bases. Still, I think this is still a rather handsome set. Not quite as traditional, but I actually like a little bit of modernity in my pieces. Now let's play a game. I'm just going to press the board setup button, and as you can see, the extra queens, they move to the edge of the board. Now, one of the things that's different with the Chessnut Move is that you can now play against a computer on board. You don't need to connect it to a companion device, and that's different to the Chessnut Air, Pro and Go. Let's play a game. Quite simple. Tap the mode button just once and the green LEDs light up on the white side, meaning that the human is playing on the side of white. If you tapped the mode button once more, then black will light up, meaning that you're going to be playing with the black pieces. Tap it one more time, both sides light up, and potentially you can play a game over the board with another human friend. Tap it one more time and it goes back to white and it cycles. Hold down the M button to commit, and now you get to set the difficulty of the computer. As you can see, only one file of green LEDs from the right means you're playing the bot at level 1. Tap the mode button again and you can go from level 1 to level 8. I'm going to be a chicken and select level 1. Hold down to commit. And as you can see, that game status light turns on, which means it's game on. We're playing against the bot. E4. Interesting response by the computer with the knight to c6. Let's play my knight. Oh, you know, it's just so cool seeing those pieces move by themselves. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the whole game. Let's see what a capture looks like. So here I capture their B pawn, and they're going to capture back. And you can see it is really quite quick because the pieces move independently. And let's have a look at the end of this game. So I'm just about to promote to a queen, so I get to demonstrate how to promote. It's the way you would expect, just replace, you know, with the appropriate piece. And notice, you can see there's a capture, and sometimes you do get one of these minor sort of jankiness. It's a little bit cramped on that left-hand side. Now, I take the pawn. It's almost mate. It's check. And black's not moving. Why aren't they moving? Well, that was sort of not quite in the right place. So you just move it out of the way. And there we go. And here we have checkmate. Checkmate. Quick demo of another game. So there we go. Selecting the playing with white. Commit. I'm going to play level 1. Commit. Game's afoot. E4. And this time computer plays Scandinavian. Of course we take, you can see, queen captures, so pawn moves to the side, knight out, queen retreats a step. What am I going to do? Just to show, yep, things still work. It largely works flawlessly, except for those, again, minor quibbles every now and then. It's just so cool seeing the pieces just move by themselves. This was a full game. Let's see the final moments of this game. Because just to show that it does work. There we are, one step from mate. They do one final desperate capture and mate. Here we are. Checkmate. And to tidy up the board, getting ready for the next game, we press that restart button. And this is such a party trick. I absolutely love showing this to people. And it's really funny every now and then when a piece travels across the board back to its home square, and there are some intervening pieces in the way, and it's kind of like a parting of the Red Sea as they slide through. Let's see whether one of this will happen with one of them. Oh, there we go. Look at that rook. Ah, so cool. Now that knight, there we go. Parting of the Red Sea. There we go. Ah, it's just so funny. And there we are, ready for the next game. For some of the more advanced features, you will need to connect the board to the Chessnut app. And that's via Bluetooth, so I tap the Bluetooth button on the app. This is on my Android phone, Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Notice that blue light, it's now solidly lit, which means it's connected. And all the features are now available. And one of the things is you can play a bot on the app, but also you've got voice control. You've got access to Maya. So Maya is an AI bot designed to play much more like a human. Now the board setup button doesn't work when you're connected to the app, but it sets itself up because the board puts itself into the place of what the app says it should be, which is the opening position. Now, I think some of the voice controls don't work so well, as you'll see. Oh, have to press turn on the button. E2, E4. And, it works.
G7, G6.
D2, D4. But it's pretty tedious. D2, D4. No, didn't get my voice properly. D2, D4. D2, D4. Ah, finally.
G8, F6.
Technically the feature exists, but the reality is is that the state of play of the app means that this feature B1C3 probably can't really be used. It's just a little bit too frustrating to use. However, because it's all software side on the app, potentially it's completely addressable in the future with an update to the app. Just like all the other Chessnut electronic chessboards, it works very well with chess.com, connects to the app in exactly the same way. And one of the great things that's happened in the last year is that chess.com and Chessnut are now working directly. And so Chessnut's app is basically using chess.com's official eBoard API. Now this means it just works well, and here I'm not going to play against a real human for the purpose of the video. It's a little bit rude. I'm playing against one of the new bots. So this is a dinosaur bot, Rex, and just like in the playing against Maya, in this setting the board sets itself up at the beginning of the game because it's trying to match what's on the board with what is on screen. Here I got a little bit impatient, just started moving some of the pieces myself, and you can do this. It doesn't muck things up. You know, the board does not freak out, and that is a very good thing. Even if you're trying to make things, well, move pieces that it's not necessarily planning on doing. Let's try whether the voice control works. E2, E4. So it does work, but I find it a bit tedious, I have to admit. I'm going to turn the voice control off. All right, French defense, Steiner variation. I won't bore you with the whole game. So let's just get to the end. Notice just how quickly the board picks up the moves. Works really, really well. Checkmate. Very good. Yep, really works quite excellently with chess.com. Well, that's it with the demo, but let's have a look at Chessnut's website on the Chessnut Move to see what information we've got in terms of price and also some specifications as well. So if you Google Chessnut Move, you'll find this page, and here we are. So here are the prices at the moment. So a pre-order discount. So they're going to be shipping soon, but not quite yet. I think shipping in July, August is what I understand. Now the wooden set, there we go. So that's the set that I demonstrated. Is $608 US, and the plastic set is about $100 cheaper. Now, my view is that the plastic set actually look very, very sharp. It's exactly the same design, but with made from plastic rather than from carved wood. But their bases are color matched, so black and white. That's really, really nice. Look, I'm a sucker for wood. I like wooden pieces. I suppose it's really up to your aesthetic preference. But the cheaper set, just over $500 US. No, not too bad, not too bad. There's a sort of a YouTube video, I'm not going to look at that. It's got some interesting stuff. So voice control, look, technically exists. I think it really needs to be improved. But the rest of the app has improved a lot in the years since I've reviewed the Chessnut Go. I think the Chessnut app now is actually pretty good. It's pretty good. You've got full piece recognition, which means the board knows which piece is on the board, and particularly with this one, the exactly what position the board is in is not just on the squares, but it's meant to have like millimeter level accuracy in terms of knowing what piece is on where, and clearly the pieces know what orientation they are on the board as well. So as mentioned, it's a full tournament size set, 55mm squares, and basically tournament size pieces for both the wooden and the plastic set. The board is quite heavy, so wooden frame, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, we've seen that before, wooden chess pieces, plastic pieces. Really, design is the same, it's just the materials. some more sort of little videos there, but I've shown you some better videos. Yeah, so it knows where things are. Here we are. Endgame import video integration. Yep, so none of this is new for this board specifically. It's just really part of the Chessnut app. Low latency and fast. Let's assume that's the app. Fast response time. And you saw that in the videos I made and in the previous ones, that one of the great things with the Chessnut board is just how sensitive they are. They can pretty much detect the piece right away. And in fact, that can be a little bit of an issue because if you have a tendency of sliding your pieces, you risk it detecting your piece on a wrong square. It detects it on a square, on a legal square it went to first. Voice control, yeah, sure, okay. Built-in chess engines, yep, so this is the first board with a built-in engine in the board itself so that you don't need to connect to your phone or a tablet or companion device to play. That's nice. However, once you've used the board for a little while, you probably don't really want to play with the same chess computer or the same chess bot. You want to play with something a little bit better, potentially someone online. You're probably going to connect to your phone, to your companion device for those purposes anyway. Okay, so weight, they haven't got the weight here, but the shipping weight, so that includes the packaging material, was a little bit over 10 kilograms or 22 pounds. Got some other stuff. King height, 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters. The pieces are quite light. They are light pieces, and it kind of makes sense. The little motors on the robot base, you want them to last a long time. You don't want to strain those motors. Less wear and tear. It works okay. Now, battery life on the board, they reckon 8 hours. Battery life of the piece is 8 hours. I've got nothing to suggest that that isn't accurate. I haven't used the devices for a full continuous 8 hours. I've not needed to recharge either the pieces or the board. I guess that's about right. Chessnut have always been mostly correct with their estimates for their battery life. So I think we can trust them on that. Charging method, USB-C, and for both the board and the charging plate, I guess you would call it, that for all the pieces, you can use a power delivery charger. So it charges a little bit faster. So that is very good. Extra queens. Yep, yeah, here we go. We've got chess-sized pieces. So the king, so obviously the diameter of all the pieces are the same. The diameter is really the base of the little robot, and the king is about 10 centimeter in height, which is pretty much tournament size height. All the other pieces, yeah, there you go there. All right, now there are some accessories that come, I think, with the that come with the board. So now firstly, one thing that comes with the board is this carrying case, 139 USD. Look, I think you have to ask yourself why you're carrying such a large board with the moving pieces around. Now, if you are, power to you, you probably should get the case because it's really heavy. This allows you to carry it in a nice, easy way. Fair enough, I guess. However, my view is that this is probably not a chessboard you'll be moving around very much. I don't know, maybe you want to bring it to your local club to make some other people a little bit jealous, perhaps. But it's available, it's there, fair enough. The other thing that you really might want is that charging base, that charging plate as a piece of plastic. It's fine, I guess, but in terms of putting all the pieces back onto the board, it's a bit wobbly, things are going to fall out. So this premium walnut, so wooden storage box, it's got a glass window, you can plug them all in, you close the box. I think there's a place you can plug it in so it charges while it's inside the box, keeps the pieces nice and clean, protects the pieces from damage. You really want to look after these pieces, you don't want to damage the bases. It's pretty reasonable, And, I've got some luxury chess pieces, and if you want to buy a luxury chess piece box, it's pretty much about this price, you know, in terms of wooden box with glass window. You know, you don't have to go to that level of luxury. They'll be a little bit cheaper. But I think for these pieces, this seems like a pretty good buy. Nice place to put the pieces. You can protect the pieces, have them charged for the next game. Pretty reasonable. So I think this is something you seriously might want to think about. I can't demonstrate that to you. I don't have one. Chessnut didn't send me one, so this is just my opinion. Looking at it on a photo on their website, but it does seem pretty reasonable. All right, so what do I think about the Chessnut Move? Look, my view is that it's a really cool board. If you want a robotic board, so where the opponent's pieces move by themselves, this is probably the best thing out there at the moment. So there is the Square of Grand Kingdom that's been released for quite a few years now. It's pretty old, it looks like it works, but it moves the pieces really quite slowly. It's basically to the point where you lose a bit of patience. Like, you watch the opponent's pieces move and you think, it's easier if I just move them myself. And if you're ever thinking that, the purpose of the board, which is self-moving pieces, is basically lost. The pieces with this board move fast enough that it's kind of okay. It's pretty fun, it's pretty good. I will say, however, that it's probably best suited for slower games, so at least rapid, I think, and probably you should put in a time increment with each move. Now, I did play some games of Blitz, 5-minute Blitz, and one of the things is, even though the pieces move reasonably quickly, on average, it probably still takes 1 to 3 seconds for the opponent's pieces to move. Sometimes it can be a little bit slower. For example, if there's a bit of an exchange or a piece is blocked in by some other pieces, so other pieces have to move before it gets to the right place, it does take those small number of seconds before the opponent's piece moves to the right square, and you have to wait for that before you can make your own turn. Now, in a time scramble, when you're playing against another human, like definitely online with a mouse where you're dragging pieces, but even over the board with a real life person moving pieces, time scramble, you can just move pieces a lot faster than that. And so I think if you're ever in a time scramble with this board, you're at a pretty major disadvantage. And so you probably want to play games where you're not going to enter a time scramble. So that's something that's a little bit of a con. However, electronic chessboards in general are not great for Blitz, definitely Bullet, because of this issue anyway. So with all the other electronic chessboards, lights light up on the board indicating your opponent's move, and so you'll have to move them manually with your hand. That is probably a little bit faster than the robot moves, but even then, it's not great for Blitz. So yep, this board, not the best for Blitz, but the whole genre of this type of product is not great for Blitz anyway. And I think even in Blitz, even if it's a little bit tad slow, I don't think you have the problem with the Grand Kingdom, where it's so slow, it's actually just unworkable. I think the speed, it's a little bit slow, but it's adequate. And that is the magic here. Even in that situation, I think the speed of the pieces is adequate. One of the other major advantages, I think, with the Chessnut Move is that the board I received works well, and it works really well. I'm not sure if this is a retail unit. I think it is still a test sample, but it may as well be a retail unit. I didn't find any major problems with the hardware during my testing of it. It looks really good, it plays really well, it's quite fun. And Chessnut has really proven themselves as a manufacturer that can get things done. So they've made the Air, the Pro, the Evo, and the Go now. And for each of those product releases, they've pretty much kept to their release timetable. And that is not the case with a lot of other startups creating electronic chessboards, where, you know, some of them, I won't name brands, but they're sort of aiming to release a chess robot as well, where usually uses some gantry system underneath the board, or using robots underneath the surface of the board, which move the pieces with magnets. Like, no, some of those, startups, they've been working on this for years, where they're at least over a year now behind on their release date. There are some questions really whether it ever will be released. And even if it does, it's, there is certainly a bit of a risk here. While with Chessnut, they've got photos on their Facebook page where they're loading pallets. They're already shipping retail units, I think by ship, like an actual ship, to sort of US and European markets. So they're ready to release. I think, as I said, their official shipping date is July and August, but I think the likelihood that they can actually deliver it's a sure thing, as close to a sure thing, I think, as any company. So it works, and clearly they've made it work. In my previous reviews of Chessnut electronic chessboards, one of the weaknesses have always been with their software, with their apps. Because the Chessnut Move uses the same app as the other e-boards, it really takes advantage of the several years now of work that Chessnut has put into the app. I would still say it's not a perfect app, but it works. It's not terribly buggy. It works really well with chess.com. It works, as far as I know, with Lichess. I don't really use Lichess, so I've only tested it once or twice. In terms of the bots which come on the app, it works fine. As you could see, I had absolutely no problems with connecting it via Bluetooth low energy, and also with having the app control the pieces. The app is actually quite mature now. It's been out for several years. It's good. It's not super feature rich, but Chessnut has also been quite proactive with engaging with third-party software developers. Now, on the computer with my Chessnut Pro, which is actually my main setup, I normally don't use Chessnut's first-party app, but use a extension called Chess Connect on my computer. It's a Chrome extension that connects chess.com with my board. Now, I've been having a little bit of communication with the developer of Chess Connect, Grin, and he tells me that he's been in contact with Chessnut, and he's expecting that his extension, so Chess Connect, the extension, and also Chess Connect, the new app now on Android and iOS, hopefully he'll be able to work, get the Chessnut APIs to work so that the Chessnut Move will work with his software as well. And again, when you think that, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, Chessnut has shown a commitment to third-party developers. So I'm actually reasonably confident that Chess Connect is going to work with the Chessnut Move in the future, though maybe not at launch. But their own first-party app works pretty well. What are some of the cons? So, firstly, price. It's not a cheap board. For the price of the Chessnut Move, you could buy pretty much any of the other boards in Chessnut's lineup, and potentially with other e-chessboard manufacturers as well. And so the question really is, how much do you want, do you like, how excited do you get with the self-moving pieces? I have personally sort of dreamed of having a chess robot, though in my mind it's with sort of a mechanical arm and gripper, pretty much since I was a boy. Like, I'm almost 50 years of age, so this is like over 40 years worth of waiting for something like this. So I'm willing to perhaps give a pass to some of the cons, some of the negative things with the Chessnut Move, because I just love the idea of self-moving pieces that much. One of the interesting things is I've shown sort of a video on my phone that I took of the pieces moving to quite a few people, asking them what they think. And there's an interesting split. So for some people, they're like me. They look at it, they get a silly grin on their face. They think it looks kind of silly, maybe, but it just looks fun and they can get behind it. However, a group of other people, in a minority, but not just one or two, when they look at the video, they feel, oh, that's a little bit creepy looking. And so I think if you're not enamored by the idea of self-moving pieces, or you think it looks a little bit freaky, a little bit scary, maybe it's not for you. One of the other things with the self-moving pieces is the pieces are quite light. And because there's little wheels on the bottom, there's a little bit of a rattle, with the gears and sort of the motor inside each of the pieces. Each of the pieces almost feels a little bit like a Hot Wheels car. I'm not sure, whether you're old enough to have ever played with toy cars as a kid. And it doesn't have that premium feel of a weighted chess piece, including, in fact, Chessnut's premium pieces for the Chessnut Pro, with the felting on the bottom, nice heavy piece. You put it on the board and you get a nice, soft, muted thunk. And that is a lovely sensory feeling of chess. And I love playing with over-the-board chess with premium pieces. Part of the enjoyment is that sensory, that sensory experience of holding these pieces, these crafted, lovely wooden artifacts of human craftsmanship, and using them on the board. You don't quite get that with these pieces because they are quite light, they rattle a bit, and they have that slightly wobbly feel as you put it on the board. That's a negative. But if you want self-moving pieces, you're gonna have to accept that, I think. One of the things I thought about, before I received the Chessnut Move was 32 pieces. There's a motor or two motors in every single piece. 34 pieces actually, because it's the 32 pieces plus the extra queen for each color. That's a lot of potential moving parts, a lot of bits that can fail. And the fascinating thing is as I've touched and held and used these pieces, I'm not especially worried about it. I think it's really excellent that Chessnut have made this work. It actually feels quite robust, and they've included the 4 spare bases. The bases are modular. To replace them, you take off 3 screws, you remove the old base, put the new one on, screw them back in, and the instruction manual describes what you would do in the app to basically teach, program the piece to say what it is. And that's just fantastic. I don't know how likely these pieces will fail. So obviously, Chessnut reckons that including 4 pieces, 4 of the additional bases, means that they don't need to have interactions with the vast majority of their customers over the warranty period. To me, that sounds pretty good. I think, when you look at these electronic goods, at a certain level, they are a bit of a toy. It's not cheap, but what really is the lifespan of something like this? Like for me, if I could use a board like this for 5 to 10 years, the odds are I'm probably pretty happy. I think I might have moved on. This is really a first or second generation product of a robotic chessboard. I'm sure in the coming years there'll be better boards, maybe from Chessnut, maybe from other manufacturers. I'm still waiting for an affordable chessboard, maybe where I can use my own board where it comes with a mechanical gripper, so a robot that moves the pieces. That would sort of fulfill my childhood dream. So I don't really think I would use something like this much beyond a 5 to 10 year window, because I would probably get something newer and better and bigger in the future. I think, yes, I feel actually quite confident that the Chessnut Move will probably survive that period. Now, I think, in buying an electronic chessboard like the Chessnut Move, as I mentioned before, there are lots of other options. It's a big board, it's heavy, It's not something you can easily pack away. It deserves its own place. You know, maybe you should get a smaller board. Like, you know, these are some of the things you need to think about before investing in a big electronic chessboard like that. You know, if you got something even a little bit smaller, you would still get mostly the same play experience, but just without the self-moving pieces. If you wanted to have a travel board, something much smaller, something the size of the Air, or definitely something like the Go would be the better option. Nonetheless, if you want to, you know, have self-moving pieces, you want to show this off, grin to yourself, you know, play wizard chess, this is really a really good product, and I can give it my recommendation.